if you were to adopt a model where you looked at your maintenance teams and you said you're going to get paid based on the number of hours that you work each day, and it needs to be real, then people would be a whole lot more likely to start a work order, document what they did in the work order, give the photos you want them to give in the work order, close the work order and be done with it, and be able to say it took me X amount of time to complete a work order.
We know at 90% turnover rates at the site level, it's really wishful thinking. If we really, by the time we try to get someone right, that someone goes, next door, and they, you start over again.
It's right now, average days open for our currently open work orders is 90.92, and that is just completely unacceptable in my mind.
And I remember one time we had a call with the property managers, 250 unit property that had like 600 open work orders. And we're like, we came up with like a 3-week plan for them to get those work orders under control. By the next morning, they went from 600 work orders to about 62. And I can swear to you, they did not complete all those work orders.
So why don't we kick things off? I want to give you the floor, Mike, to just kind of introduce yourself to the group or reintroduce. You might have said something on the first call we had.
Well, hey guys, my name's Mike Slayton. I'm formerly a director of maintenance and operations. Also formerly a director of operations and capital improvements for a rec group out of Ohio. So I'm looking forward to getting back involved in the group. I appreciate the shout out on LinkedIn earlier today, and I'm looking forward to the conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we're at it, Mike, why don't you share with everyone kind of like, what you're looking for? What's the next best thing looking like for you? Obviously with so many folks on the call, and then call being recorded, there's opportunities that maybe they're not so obvious to you, right? Or you don't know they're out there. Kind of what you're looking for, location, type of what would be an ideal situation for you.
Sure. So yeah, I'm open to work currently. I'm based out of Atlanta. I'm looking for director or above level positions, either within management or within ownership groups or owner-owned properties. My primary focus has been facilities and operational work with a heavy component of capital project management within the Southeast. I'm a member of Atlanta, Tampa, and Charlotte's apartment associations, and have run projects throughout the Southeast for multiple groups.
Definitely glad to have you, sir. And since you mentioned the capital project size of the business that you've been heavily involved in over the years, I'm really curious about what you're seeing for labor tracking, allocating hours per unit, and this goes for like operations and also projects too. So let's touch on both ends. What do you see, or where do you see some opportunities for improvement?
Yeah, I noticed that on the call notes email. I'm very interested in what some of the other people are doing. I'm not sure a consistent tracking method is being deployed across different groups. So if you're talking about capital projects, say maybe we're talking about interior renovations and what those scopes kind of look like, and are those going to be X days per unit? That really depends. Yeah, like I said, I'm interested in how the group is tracking these some of these projects. A lot of times, from an ownership's level perspective, we're going to be tracking those based on what the management company is information they're telling us, and of course, that's just getting regurgitated from the contractor. Can those be tightened up? Absolutely. But I am curious what the group thinks.
Yeah, I'm going to go around the table. Today is very interesting. We had more than one representatives from the, I'll say, supplier side. Our partners on the supplier side. Craig currently works on the supplier side, but he's still, I'm looking at him still as an operation guy. He's been doing that for so long. One of us, and also we have Nick and we have Sean. I like to kind of get like the both sides of the equation and just kind of go around the room and learn. I think I want to hand it over to Sean right now. And Sean, could you share with us if your technology helps with labor allocation, whether that's like project on a project side or on a day-to-day operations, maintenance operations?
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, everybody. Thank you, Adrian. And I think I've been on this call a few times before, but there are some new faces. So just as a quick introduction, my name is Sean Landsberg. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a maintenance platform called AppWork. I also consider myself still an operator. I was an operator for the last decade. I was overseeing the operations at a nationwide property management company, which led us seeing the impact maintenance had on our assets, led us to building AppWork, and which is how we got to where we are today. Eventually, I ended up leaving the management company to focus full time on building and growing AppWork, and it's been an incredible journey. But I myself still consider myself to be an operator by trade. But again, just a quick intro to myself. In terms of to answer Adrian's question about labor tracking, Appwork as a platform, from a project management perspective, on like CapEx tools and things like that, we don't have the ability to track that. But we do have that from like a day-to-day work order or make ready or an inspection task perspective. You could track and allocate labor hours. Even from I guess after the job's done, you could also convert those how much actual labor was used on that task. So how much time somebody spent or people spent completing that task, and obviously put a dollar amount. You can do that based off of, if maybe you just want to track based on how much I pay my team. From a labor perspective, Appwork, we can then calculate that for you. Or if you want to track, if you're maybe have to that back to the ownership group or something like that, you can put, what your bill rates are into the platform and it'll automatically calculate it. But it's interesting. We actually most of our clients don't utilize it as an operator. I always encourage people not to utilize it so much unless you have to go back and bill, unless you're working with like smaller assets, you have to go back and bill the owners for. What we end up seeing operationally, what I saw operationally when we're trying to, have our maintenance guys, punch in, so to speak, to every work order, they end up feeling like they're being micromanaged, and the data, it becomes incredibly unreliable because I'm relying on them to manually take an action. And then it just, so we from a data perspective, we couldn't make any decisions on it. And then our teams feel like they're being micromanaged. In reality, they're not even, because no one's even looking at the data. So obviously, every company has their different use cases for it, but we always encourage our clients, unless you're actually going to use that data or need that data for something in particular, it's always better not to rely on data like that.
I'm gonna Tyus, I'm gonna be with you in just a second. I have a quick curiosity for Sean. Sean, everybody is still, out there talking about centralization. From what I'm hearing, I'm curious if this, like, labor allocation part isn't really important when you share certain maintenance personnel, right? Unless it's like pre-allocated and they say, hey, we have this pool of, workers, and then like each individual's, payroll gets billed back, 20% to this property, 13% to the next, and so on and so forth. So it's pre-allocated regardless of where they're spending the time. Do you have anything, any requests like that from your clients at all, that use some sort of a centralized model?
Yeah, excellent question. So, I mean, first of all, when we were an operator, we tried a centralized model. The way we personally ran it internally, in the markets where we were centralized, is we would just build back an allocated rate based on the unit count. So we would basically charge. We had like a separate entity set up. It was actually called Central Maintenance LLC. Funny enough, and we build back just a price per unit for the maintenance hourly rates, and that was regardless of how much services that central maintenance entity provided to the property. But what a lot of our clients that are using that are centralizing maintenance, and they are using that time allocation and time tracking because you need to. Most people, most owners wouldn't want a general, allocation on a per unit level. So they're going to want to know, bill me for the time that I spent, and that is the use case of why people are using it. But if you're not running a centralized maintenance model, I personally don't see much of an important use case for it. If anybody here has one, I'd be curious to hear it. But I think that's a very important use case of a centralized model, and I think you can't run it without that, in my opinion. But even then, you still have to be very careful about the data integrity behind it.
Thanks, Sean. Tyus, you're next, and Bentley, I'm gonna go to you next.
Well, honestly, the app work is similar to what we use. It's HappyCo, and it's not perfect by any means, especially switching from Yardi. But that is something that is built into it, is the tracking of time. Make a work order for everything you're doing, and then you can track the time. But then, you are relying on the techs to manually start it. Some forget, some don't even try. It's more or less just a case by case scenario, and that's where I look at the notes, and I just have to communicate with my team. If it's taking you longer to do something because, I call it to give a mouse a cookie, you go in and they said it's a sink leak, and then you end up having to repipe the whole system because it turned one thing into another. That's going to take more than just, the 30 minutes you thought it should.
That's great feedback out there, Tyus. Since you're on, I'm curious about your opinion of like, if you were to be like the app designer or like, some person that could make changes, what would you do to improve your current system that you use? I'm curious. What are some areas of improvement right there that you could use to improve, the tracking in our case here?
Yeah. The tracking, it would definitely be, I'd say, instead of like the start work and then like having it, because you can't do anything else while you have that start work going, eliminate that. Do it almost like a timestamp. And that way, that's when you started working on that project. And then you have to just more push instead of pushing the tracking and stuff like that. Because he's right, maintenance guys, they feel like someone's over their shoulder, and they're really not. No one's even looking, but it's just to see how long things actually take. But if you push the notes portion and use that notes portion as if it's, if something else came up and you had to switch off, put it down. Let us know that you had to stop, go to something else, and then come back to it. That's why it may have taken, 3-4 hours to get that done. But in reality, you only actually spent the 15, 20 minutes on it. But otherwise, our app, at least, it keeps that clock running. And sometimes I've had guys leave, the work order's still running. And I see that when I'm trying to close out stuff at the end of the day. I'm like, hey, I need you to clock that off. That way I can finish up, my submissions.
Yeah, very interesting feedback out here. And thank you for sharing. Bentley, you're up next, and I would like to go to Craig after that.
Sounds good. Adrian, I didn't actually have a question. I do have some thoughts on it. I'm happy to share.
Oh yeah, no, definitely some thoughts. That's typically what we do, right? We kind of go around the table and we try to get feedback. We try to understand how everybody does things, what they're seeing working, where they're seeing areas of improvement, things of that nature. So it's it's open, open discussion pretty much, and it could be a question too at the time, right? If you use the hand raise emoji, I guess you could always ask questions while somebody else is talking. So yeah, please.
Excellent. Thanks for explaining, Adrian. Yeah, first time caller. You probably all picked that up by now.
Why don't you introduce yourself to the group? Welcome, by the way. I know that we're communicating via email a lot, but I didn't. I thought you might be a first timer, but I wasn't quite sure. Please do a quick intro of yourself.
So Bentley Peabody, as it says on the screen there, Vice President of Maintenance and Construction for a Southern California fee management firm called Fairgrove Property Management. Been in the industry since 2006 professionally, since I was 11 at home. My parents have some small rentals. I've done a lot of stuff from on-site maintenance all the way through and on-site property management, all the way through regional VP of property management, as well as IT management. So I've been in and around the space. I totally love property management. On the maintenance end, so we use AppFolio today, and we have a roving and property specific maintenance teams. So, and we treat them differently. The property specific maintenance teams we run much in a traditional model, so I won't mention that. But we use AppFolio. We bill through AppFolio, and our maintenance techs enter their time. Either they use the timer or they enter it manually for each work order. And it does take training and it does take oversight, but they do it quite reliably with follow-up sometimes, but they do it pretty reliably. So the ones that use the timer don't have any trouble interacting with the app. They do use notes, but not to like demark time. I don't know if I was understanding you, Tyus, correctly, but they don't demark time changes, but they demark what it is that they did with the notes. And they'll put in a picture with that note, ideally. So you have a really good, clear understanding of the work that they did. And then we bill that back. We bill that back to the different properties based off of the hours that they entered. And we have some minimums, trip charges, and we round up to the nearest half hour, et cetera, things like that.
When you're mentioning trip charges, do you guys act as like commercial maintenance? Is it charged back to the owners?
Yeah, our roving centralized maintenance team is effectively a third-party maintenance company.
Very, very interesting. I think on a side, I like to pick your brain on a few things because I'm working with a client that has a entity that's kind of like that, but I like to hear what works, how you guys build, like everything that you could share on a separate call if that's if that's an opportunity for
I mean, as long as your client's not in Southern California, I think we could probably chat.
They're definitely not. They're pretty far from California.
Okay, good. No worries. Happy to help the industry.
Appreciate it. I'm gonna go to Craig now, and then we're gonna go to Nick. He had a hand up, so Nick, just be prepared.
Hey guys, glad to be back. Been a little while. Busy, which is good, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about, well, it's about accountability, right? So, a little competition, Sean. I work for Net Vendor Maintenance. Time tracking is a tricky piece, right? So we don't actually ask people to start and stop. We start and stop for them based on the actions they take inside the platform. And the reason for that is to try and give some accounting back to and data back to leadership about the time that it takes to complete work in an apartment. The biggest piece of that, though, comes back to the accountability. And I'll throw something out there. Nobody will ever do it, but I'll throw it out there anyway because I do every once in a while. Similar to Bentley's deal. If you were to adopt a model where you looked at your maintenance teams and you said you're going to get paid based on the number of hours that you work each day, and it needs to be real, then people would be a whole lot more likely to open a work order, start a work order, document what they did in the work order, give the photos you want them to give in the work order, close the work order and be done with it, and be able to say it took me X amount of time to complete a work order. So if it took you 2 hours to go and plunge a toilet because it involved 6 other things while you were there, you get paid for 2 hours worth of work that you actually did. Nobody will ever go to that. It's not what we're going to do in our industry, but it would hold people accountable. It's what all of our vendors are doing, right? So if the HVAC guy shows up on your property, he started a ticket on the iPad in the truck before he got out. He's going to enter all the information and order parts from there when he's doing the work. He's going to close the ticket out when he's done, because that's the information that's going back to his office where they're going to bill your company, your property, and where he's going to get paid from. And if he doesn't bill the right number of hours, he's not going to get paid the right number of hours. So it would be an interesting model. I'd love to see somebody adopt one day just to see what happened as far as the accountability. Otherwise, Bentley, you're right. It's a whole lot of going back and holding hands and making sure that people are doing what you expect them to do, which means somebody within the organization then has to be managing the people all the time. Oops, you didn't do, I'm sure that toilet didn't take you 14 hours. So we're going to reopen the work order. You're going to go back in. We're going to try and figure it out, and you kind of got to kick the outliers out. But once you build the muscle memory, then your employees are a whole lot more apt to use it. From a project management piece, depends on what you use. We have a project piece inside of our product, but not one that's widely used at this time. That you can build additional work orders out, track it as a piece of a project. There's some pieces that you could use in that. We have a couple of clients that use it especially for HUD inspections. So they'll use the project piece to build a project after the HUD inspectors completed their inspection. Then they'll have 10 items inside Unit 101. And then they'll go in and build a project for Unit 101 based on the 10 items. Those 10 items become 10 service requests tied to that unit, to that project, that they give a report back to HUD after they complete those. And You similarly use it for other pieces in projects. It's not really project management as a whole, but you could work on it.
I'm gonna turn it over to Nick, and then Noah. I want to bring you in next. After your interventions, I like to get it back to Sean, because I think we went around the table with everybody that's like on camera, because like right here, there's a thing that it's kind of like a recurring theme of trying to model behavior, and we know at 90% turnover rates at the site level, it's really wishful thinking. If we're really, by the time we try to get someone right, that someone goes next door, and they you start over again. So I think that right here, to me, right, there has to be a way, the technology, and I could imagine, like right now while I'm talking, I could imagine, for example, a piece of technology that you have the app on your phone, and before you go to the apartment, right, in a scenario where it's a keyless lock that you can unlock like at a hotel with your phone, right? Before, like the time that at the time that you unlock that particular door, your work order starts automatically. So it doesn't rely on anybody's behaviors. It's just an automation piece that's built into the system to avoid that type of situation. And with that being said, Nick, you're up next, sir.
Everybody, good to be back. My shtick, my business is a company called Durango Turnkey Services, but all we do is make-readies. So if it's plumbing, electric, roofing, exterior, no thanks. I've got people I can call. And we have a very lightweight app. We used to do a lot of the things that Adrian was talking about, but it's white labeled. We are here to turn units. And so my question, I love asking this question, is the balance between work order management and elimination versus the day-to-day painting and make-ready punch, and what your expectations are on those turnarounds. Everybody's been saying right around 4 to 7 days, give or take, and just how how that has been affecting the time tracking of the major things that break. Because like that could be one of the things that I would imagine is interrupting the flow. My background, I'm a lawyer and I've been a lawyer for 20 years. So I did not spend 20 years on site. I'm learning. So this is just more background for me. This is an open question, but Bentley, Craig, I've actually heard you speak on this subject, so I could probably read back to you what you've said. Tim as well, but would love the feedback.
Yeah, if any of you has something to share right here, in regards to what Nick just said now or later on, by all means, feel free to intervene. Again, it's an open conversation. We want to make the best of this, back and forth, and get the best answer.
And I know everybody loves to talk about make-readies. It is the most exciting part of property management. But that's why we're here. Somebody's got to do it.
I got something on make-readies. Like, what is the best way you guys are tracking make-readies and make-ready boards and stuff like that? Because HappyCo is not there yet. It doesn't reverse integrate to Yardi. We're still using Yardi, HappyCo Teams, Chronos for log. Like, we are using anywhere from 8 to 10 apps, and it is just cumbersome to try and navigate everything in a day just to do the work you have to do.
100%. Can I tell you, we have not found anything that's complete yet. One thing that we have found is that in the age of AI and like agentic tech, it's almost easier for me to just take a system. I know AppWork, it's a great reputation in the space. We've been working closely with a group called PropUp down in Austin. They're a great data visualization, like make-ready board, like a Domino's pizza tracker for make-readies, but they don't make pizza. So we make pizza. Mm-hmm. And we go on site to make sure that we're doing all of the things, and we track it in a platform called JobTread. So I've got a bunch of great platforms that do parts of it. And in an inspection app that is backed by a friend of many of ours, Guillermo Salazar at IrisCX. And so it's like all of these things pieced together create a cohesive solution to track all of the things. So I can ingest my pipeline. My pipeline is the people that provided notice to vacate, net 30-day move out, 90-day notice. And then we have this pipeline of units that we're pulling in from Yardi, Resman, et cetera, by way of our partners, like a PropUp. That's what they're there for, is to pull that data in. Great, I can use that. Otherwise, I'm asking for a rent roll. And then I'm going from there and just basically trying to show up on site and say, I've got the materials. I know you need it. I'm sure you saw my email. I'm going to be here today. And then we track the work with photos. We use purchase orders with vendors because otherwise it gets to be kind of insane.
Yeah.
And so we say, I'm purchasing 1 unit of 1 unit of resurfacing, sir. And they say, great, we'll be on site. And that's what it is. They take photos of it when they're done. We walk it at the end to make sure it's actually what they did the work they took a photo of. And then that's it. It's just, we're doing probably 150 turns, 200 turns a month. And so like that's 800 vendor trades, give or take.
I feel like that's definitely an increase since the last time I was on here.
Yes. Yeah, we were at 80 to 90. And this month yeah, that's right. Good, great memory. And last month we went to, and this month we're in North Carolina for the first time. And we had a property that had 70 down units across 350 unit property. And so This month is going to be like 150, but that's going to be about our steady pace until we increase from there. And then it'll dip in the winter.
We had a cluster of move-ins, of course, and they all went almost identically. And then the team that I tried to call in, they said they were able to do it. They showed up on site the first couple of days. And then I had trouble because I didn't realize we had a new acquisition go on over the next town over. And they were also doing like they're switching it from campus style to multifamily style. So they had to trash out units. They had to go through eviction processes. It was a whole undertaking that even I had to go over and help do walks and fill out sheets for. But it's just a project board in general, whether it's manually hand done or on any one of the various apps, nothing seems to work. The best you can get is kind of like 80%.
Right. And we're trying. So what we have found is that one of the biggest struggles for us is finding either maintenance and construction minded individuals that can use some sort of tech. Okay, that's pretty good. But they don't understand property management. They understand fixing things. Or I find a property manager who's already trying to do this thing. They're doing 800 leasing. They're dealing with residents. Meanwhile, they're also turning units. And if we can give them a job as our site manager, they no longer get 2 a.m. phone calls. And the pay is around what they were probably making. So I think that's the model for us, is to find people that understand how properties work and then give them the tools to, our tool is simple. It's just voice, photo, and video. We use some amount of AI to track it and then associate it with the right trades. But we still have some manual entry because we're still building it. But no, it works pretty well. I mean, Tyus, you're in Colorado?
Yeah.
I would love to just I'll connect with you after this. I'll just love your feedback on the app. I mean, it's
absolutely
like you can use it. We won't service it. We're not active in Colorado, but I would still love your feedback on it nonetheless.
I'd be open to using it just because I'm having a whole issue where my project boards that they had me using were not reverse integrating. So I was having to go through manually do 2 to 3 times the work.
It's insane. Yes, exactly. And so we are trying to bridge those gaps to say, when I said painting is done in a comment, like in a notes field, what does that mean? It means the painting's done. So I need you to associate that, like if we're plugging into Yardi, if we're plugging into a non-PMS like PropUp or AppWork, I can tell it to, when I say painting is done in the comments or I close the trade that was painting, that means that you need to mark that as done in Yardi, AppWork, etc.
Okay.
But we're getting there. It's not there yet, but in the world of AI, it's like
it's starting to hit that. Yeah, it's hitting that. What do they call that? It's hitting the point horizon. It's like
the event horizon. That's right. That inflection point where I'm giving these guys projects, expecting it to take 2 weeks, and they give it back to me in 2 days.
Yeah,
like I'm not asking challenging things apparently. So, but anyway, that's what we're up to. And Tyus, I'll connect you to that line.
Great sight, gentlemen. I want to turn it over to Noah, and then I want to circle back with Sean because I think there were some things that kind of we went back and forth on the current challenges, and I'd love to hear his take on what has been said and the opportunities to automate and not rely on people recording their own time. Just something more like I'll say to me, looking towards the future, right? Because definitely the human element in so many ways is not the most real. Well, in this particular situation, I don't think is the most reliable thing, right? We invest a lot in like training, and we don't even get to train people because they're out through the back door, and then you start over again. So Noah, what is
Yeah,
your
boy, this is a big topic for me. It's one that I've always it's always in the back of my mind. First off, just in terms of tracking time, it's not really something that we've ever done well or at all. If I can be completely honest, we years ago when I joined TM as the capital projects manager, one of my responsibilities was getting our maintenance staff to use the Yardi mobile maintenance app. And we've gone through so many iterations of that app and its configuration and operating. At a certain point a couple of years ago, we were having so much trouble getting people to just log in and use the app that I basically just gave up on it and said, you know what? We ended up buying all of our maintenance staff Chromebooks that they still aren't using to have them hopefully enter information into Yardi. We recently, I guess now a couple of years ago, we built out a Power BI platform as well that pulls all of this data from Yardi and our other, well, actually everything's in Yardi. It pulls all of this data from Yardi and it gives us these really nice dashboards of information. But I'm looking at my work order counts right now. Average days open for our currently open work orders is 90.92, and that is just completely unacceptable in my mind. I can actually see the oldest date for each of our regional managers even, and I've got some that go all the way back to 2021. I've asked people to go back and close those things out multiple times over the last few months, just so that I can start to get a sense of how long it takes to close these things out. But it is such a struggle for me because we have all of this technology, we have all of this information available to us, and we're just, our staff just aren't putting things into Yardi or closing out their work orders in a timely manner. With the mobile maintenance app, we actually had it initially set up that they would have to punch in for each work order that they started. And I stopped telling people to do that even because I was just constantly getting emails. I forgot to punch in. I can't edit my time, blah, blah, blah. And, I did kind of latch on to something. I don't remember who said it earlier, but actually I think it was maybe Sean, but just that information of how long does it really take you to do one specific task isn't as important to me right now as just seeing what's the average number of days that it takes us to close out a work order. I know our maintenance staff are stretched really thin. I mean, average, we probably have one maintenance tech per property, and granted, those are 40-unit properties, but they are getting called all over the place from one property to another when they're in the middle of work. So I don't put a lot of weight on the time that they're spending on that task as I do on just how long does it take to close it out, because I just want to see if there's anything we can do to improve the operations.
That's all about money.
All about
take 10% of your regional maintenance manager's bonus if they can't get their work orders closed out. And
I need more regional maintenance managers first.
Don't take. So if you don't have the regional maintenance, take it from your regional property managers. Yeah. And if you can't get your work orders closed out, then you get minus 10% of your bonus at the end of the year. And I bet you probably a really good steak dinner that you'll get a lot more work orders closed out in the right timely manner.
I wouldn't doubt that.
But finding leadership above regional managers that's willing to say, yes, we'll hold our regional managers accountable to make sure that we get accurate reporting on our maintenance platform so that we can actually know how long it takes to complete a work order.
To that end, Craig, I
that's
actually
about
have
money.
The opposite kind of problem that I caught actually. So we had people that were closing out work orders without actually doing the work, or just to meet these KPIs. They were closing out work orders without actually getting the work done, or they were making duplicates of the work orders to close them out to drop times.
Somebody will always game the system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, that's what we were dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's accountability and monitoring. That's the hardest part.
And that's what I keep trying to tell everybody. It's, unfortunately, with the growth that we've experienced, the size of our corporate maintenance department has not caught up. We have 23 regional property managers, and we have 6 regional maintenance managers. So they're spread quite thin, and they spend the majority of their time just helping prepare for REAC and the other, REAC and RD inspections.
They changed.
Inspections have been so crazy lately too. And then in terms of the other, what I think just the question about turn boards is, again, we don't have any central system for tracking our turns other than the make-ready work orders getting put into Yardi if they do get in there. At the property level, they're using physical whiteboards as their turn boards for the most part. My biggest challenge really has been the technology adoption in general. I know there's a lot of properties out there that are still working on the paper work orders, and the maintenance guy just gets handed a stack in the morning, writes done on it, and hands it back to the manager, and then the manager gets around to closing out the work order in Yardi whenever they get an opportunity. So these are things that I've been kind of fighting with for years now, trying to just get everybody on the same page. And it's been hard to keep up with that, with the growth that we've experienced and how many more people we've brought on board. So this conversation has been really, really interesting to me to hear what everybody else is doing. In terms of the technology, we've got for everything. All of our operations stay within Yardi. I've looked at some of these other, I've talked to people about AppWork, about HappyCo, about, I think, just about every other maintenance management software there is. And to me, it's not even worth really looking at paying for something like that if I know that my staff aren't even using what's actually available to them now. So I'm just trying to get people to give me the information. And that's really just about everywhere. Purchasing, work orders, turnovers, our contractors even. So I like to hear what everybody else is doing here, because it's giving me some ideas on how I can hold people more accountable. 2, how I can kind of start to try to get some better information. I love the ideas of bringing people, giving people something, the incentives to want to make this happen. But I like to think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm hoping that, in the next 6 months to a year that we're going to really see a big jump. But until I really start seeing accurate data coming in, I have really very little to work with, and it's challenging.
You're bringing up so many great points, Noah. Here, it's kind of hurts to hear you saying all these things, but at the same time, I don't look at it from a pain point standpoint. I look at it like, every single pain point that you mentioned to me, it's opportunity. How do we find ways to do things better? I started the council with the specific goal for us to meet and come up with the solutions. There's so much brilliance in this virtual room and outside of it, right, in an industry. I can think that we can get to the bottom of it. Ed, I see that you have your hand up. Sean is up next, and then be prepared. I'm gonna give you the floor after Sean.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Adrian. And no, I think a lot of what you said resonates with me. I think a lot of what you said is actually the reason why we went out and created the platform that we did. And I'll preface everything that I'm saying, and even what I said before. I'm not a salesperson, and I'm terrible at sales, and I'm not trying to promote any product or service. I just want to talk about my experience as an operator and why we created what we created. So again, don't take anything that I'm saying. And if you guys want an amazing software, Craig's on the call. Go use Netfender. They're also amazing, an amazing player out there. Awesome. So again, I'm not here to promote AppWork. I'm here with my operator's cap, even though I just took my cap off, but my operator cap on right now, and not my prop tech cap on. But I can tell you that we were a Yardi shop, a full-on Yardi shop, before we started building out our technology on the maintenance side. And the reason why we did that was for one reason, and that was just because we couldn't get the adoption. So, I remember we had a scenario, one of our properties, where the property was struggling, and almost any time you have a distressed asset, you look at maintenance. That's the first place that we would always look. Obviously they're not turning units fast enough. Work orders are a disaster, and that's typically the two recipes for disaster in a distressed property. And I remember one time we had a call with the property managers, 250 unit property. They had like 600 open work orders, and we're like, we came up with like a 3-week plan for them to get those work orders under control. By the next morning, they went from 600 work orders to about 62. And I can swear to you, they did not complete all those work orders. It was very simple. They just went into Yarding, complete, or cancel, delete. It was one of those. So that was like what we realized is just, again, Yardy's not being utilized. We don't have any data integrity behind it. So what we set out to do is basically create a platform that, number one, is on the base, it has to be utilized, because then all the data that you get, you can use it to make decisions. We couldn't use Yardy when we would look to see any open work orders. It just wasn't accurate data. Either the work orders were closed and they forgot to update Yardy, or the work orders were just never getting done, and because no one's using Yardy and they didn't even see the work orders to begin with. So we had two things. Number one is create an incredibly simple and easy to use app that they'll actually use. But number two is also create a way where you have the data integrity behind it, that they can't just close work orders. I think like you said, or I don't remember actually, it could be somebody else was saying it, about people just completing more work orders to get their numbers down, or creating more work orders to get their numbers down. And what the neat thing about the way we built the platform, and I'm sure that other technology, not just Outwork, has this, because with technology it's very easy to do this, is we have a couple of points of data integrity. Number one, the only way to close out a work order is to assign it to somebody on the maintenance team. Property managers cannot complete work orders. They can cancel them if they need to, but they cannot complete. When a work order is completed, it's going to require the maintenance technician that's completing it to upload both a photo and a completion note. The photo stays internal, but then obviously if you want to know, was this work order done or not, you can pull up the picture and see, well, here's a picture of the work. But the comment actually gets instantly emailed to the resident, the completion note. So the resident will get an email the moment the technician closes the work order and says, hey, resident, great news, your work order's been complete. Here's what was done in the unit. So obviously, it's very hard for the technician to fake that, both the photo and the comment. But then we even take it a step further, where the technician actually knows the resident has two options. From that email, they have two options. Number one is if the work order was not done or done correctly, they could click on a button right there that says reopen. And that will allow the resident to essentially call back the work order. They'll have to put in a reason why. So they'll say, Johnny never showed up. And like this, the technician can mark whatever work orders they want as complete. And essentially, the way just the natural ecosystem and progression works is it would just automatically reopen the work order, again and again and again until the technician actually closes it. But then the other thing is the technician also gets rated. The residents leave ratings and reviews, so the technicians are incentivized to making sure that they're only properly completing the work orders when the work's actually done. And then we built on the back end a really fun gamification component where they earn coins, badges, and all these different things based on their performance. And the top two KPIs that we're looking at for technicians are, number one is their average ratings, and number two is percentage of callbacks. So the whole system in itself has this, very detailed level of gamification, data integrity that is very hard to, so to speak, game the system, no pun intended, with everything that we've created. So that's number one, just to address that and the issues with behind adoption and things like that. I think that's kind of the reason why platforms like us and NetVendor exists, is because other platforms like Yardi, the native PMSs, they're not maintenance solutions. They're accounting systems. You can't take an accounting software, give it to a maintenance guy, and say, here, use it. I mean, I couldn't figure out Yardi for my first 2 years using it, and I'm a techie guy. And a relatively young guy compared to the maintenance folks, a lot of the people in the maintenance industry today, which is a separate problem that I think Adrian's a big fan of, or proponent of, bringing awareness to that in itself, which we won't get down that rabbit hole. But so that's just a little bit of that. Just to go back though to talk more about what Adrian wanted to mention, wanted us to talk on about the time tracking and using data to automate that. And first of all, within our platform, we actually have multiple ways of tracking average completion times. Number one is on a property level. It's really simple. You can track from time to work orders created, so from creation through completion, how long does that take on average or for a period of time? Then on a technician level, you can track from assignment to completion. So on average, when a work order is assigned to him, how long does it take to complete it? And then each individual work order, so from when this work order is assigned, how long did it take from assignment to completion? We do have, like we said before, a very manual way. If you want to get even more specific, as how long the tech was in the actual unit for. And that, again, like we said, we're reliant on the technician to actually click the start button on the timer. The stop happens automatically once the work order is completed. So they're not really stopping the timer. They're more of completing the work order. We are actually exploring and working with an option that would allow us to automate it, which would make it a lot better. The problem that you come up with automate is it's relatively simple from a technological perspective. We have the location of every unit. You can use some kind of API to actually get the exact geo coordinates of the unit, including elevation. So that's not difficult. And then use the phone's GPS location to automatically start and stop the timer. The problem that you run into, I mean, number one is obviously garden style. That's actually really simple to build. But when you're dealing with high rises and your elevation gets really blurry when you're 40 stories up, and there's a bunch of units on that floor. And then the last, you end up getting into issues if there's two open work orders for units right next to each other, which typically there are. If somebody's going up to the 40th floor, right, they're going to try to tackle all the work orders on that floor at the same time. So the last thing that you want to do is start the timers for the wrong unit, especially from a data integrity perspective, because you may solve it by creating more problems than you've had before. But the other thing that oh gosh, totally just the other reason why we actually don't have it today is because our platform is run on the very base foundation of ease of use and technicians using it. And one of the most important things for us is a lot of companies overlook very often is something as simple as the technician's battery. They're on their phone all day. If we're tracking their live location every second of the day and pinging 17 different APIs to figure out where they were to create 17 different automations of, start the timer when they get into that unit and stop it when they get into that unit and they walked out of the building, so notify this person and do that, you end up by 2:00 in the afternoon, you have a dead phone, and then the entire system, forget about that feature, the entire system is now worthless. And that's something that we spent a lot of time engineering our platform around and our technician app around, is the fact that, again, people have older phones with batteries that are not strong and they need that to last the entire day. You also have people that have no memory on their device. They have an older phone and they can't even take photos because they have ran out of memory, right? So we have to understand the people that are using our technology. They're not tech savvy people and they have older phones that may not work very well. And we have to create an app that works for them. And that naturally limits us on some of these features that sound nice and sound fun. What I always say is we build technology we don't build technology for the decision makers, we build it for the end users. So in a feature, like Adrian said, to automatically start and stop the timer based on their geolocation, it's something that may sell really well to a decision maker. And an executive of a company says, "Oh, that's really cool. I want that." But then practically speaking, it doesn't work really well for the end users.
Yeah, I think I was referring to a combination of when you use your phone to unlock the front door, that you could identify that particular lock. It's not going to be a confusion that it's belonging to this apartment or that, because it's
100%.
And then once you open the door, that actually triggers the clock. And when that door locks for good, where you're leaving the apartment, boom, then you kind of get it.
No, that's actually a genius idea. The issue that you run into there is, number one, obviously not everybody has smart locks today. And then those that have smart locks, you have to get them to agree to integrate with platforms like ours. You have platforms like an incredible platform out there, the SmartRent, which is a major player in the smart home automation industry. They have a pretty hard rule with integrating their smart lock data into platforms like AppWork. So obviously that makes it more difficult. But yeah, I mean, those are things that we would love to do and would be really easy to do. And like you said, that also solves the problem of battery life and tracking and all that other fun stuff.
Thank you, Sean. That was very informative. Ed,
very insightful.
Thanks, sir. Ed, where?
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
It's going good. How are you?
Welcome. All right. For those that haven't had a chance to meet me via chat, Ed Ware. I'm a director of facilities and management, and going back to the young gentleman's question, I have ran into that issue before, and this is just some tips The first thing first to get everybody on track is like 3 key things. Make sure it's in your policy. If it's not in the company's policy, you should put it in there by Friday. You know, get the employee handbook updated, make everybody sign off for it, and also you have to hold the regionals accountable, because the regionals is going to be your eyes and ears to make sure that the work orders are being completed, you know, in a certain amount of time, and no one is cheating the system. And also, what I had to do many years ago, I had to actually do a facilities report every single week until everybody got on track. And in my facility report, I had the name of the property, work orders completed, work orders still open. And I did it for every single property, and I sent it out to the regions. Then also how many work orders, even though they're pending, how many work orders they have pending past 30 days. But another thing you can do is you can always send out blast emails, what you would like to see done. Like, my goal is to have any work order, non-emergency, completed in 48 hours. Emergency work order should be completed the same day, unless it's a special circumstance, like you need a special vendor to come out. Then basically the main thing is just to get it in the company policy, and also have requirements like all work orders should be completed. Non-emergent work orders should be completed in 48 hours. Emergencies can be completed in within the same day. And also, you know, if you can get that in your company's policy, it you have something to stand on. Like, hey, they have no excuse. How come this ain't done? How come that ain't done? Because you actually doing a weekly facilities report, and you sending it out to the regionals only. You're not sending to nobody else, only the regionals. And that's how you can hold the regionals accountable. Like, hey, they only completed 10 work orders this week, and they have over 30 pending work orders, and they have eight that has been pending over 30 days. You know, and highlighted in red, because that's the one thing that I know regionals don't like to see. If their property is failing in any kind of way, though their property has all these deficiencies going on, because that puts the other regionals in competition with each other. Because no one wants to be how you say, shamed, you know. So basically, if you start with that, that can get you your platform that you're looking for, having all your having whatever platform they're using, they should be using. But of course, with I like Apto, especially with the demos that I've seen so far. But whatever platform you're currently using, you can do a deep dive, most likely, and it'll give you all the information that you need, like how many work orders was completed on each single property.
Only problem with ours is it goes to like, I like the 30 days. That's perfect. That's when it's past due. Ours goes to past due after 4.
And thank you for the short. Thank you all. This is about all the time we had today. We lost a couple of folks because they had our calls. Totally understandable. I appreciate you contributing today to the call. If you're going back to, and I'll send reminders, if you go back to the email I sent, we only touched like on one item from the list. We're just gonna keep working down the list. I'm always welcoming new suggestions for new topics, so please send them my way. Happy to do that. I think it's important that we bring our partners from the service supplier side, so we kind of get like 360 view, so we don't be like here just a think tank, but a limited like echo chamber where we're talking to each other while the service providers are being left out of the conversation. So that is the goal, to bring them in to participate in a conversation, and also to be expert matters. Like when I think mold, right? I think a mold remediation person has probably more experience than if they've been in a business for 10 years, then probably most of us combined. So that's value there, and also I think it's the right thing to do, because they're our partners. It's not us and them, like we all together to solve the industry issues. And speaking of that, before we're splitting for today, I'm cooking something really big, right? It's a legacy project for me. More to come, but I will say the project, well founded and executed, should be solving the maintenance labor shortage that everybody is facing.
Love it.
In a real way, not in a way that I'm just gonna pat myself on the back. That I tried something scalable, something that will be scaled at a national level in a few years to become the main source of talent for the entire industry all over the country. Very excited to do this, extremely excited, and also humbled in so many ways, because it's not, it was kind of an idea, right? Many other people had this idea. Yeah, I'm not an original person. They tried it. And I say, to some extent, it has succeeded in like very particular situations. I want to take what worked for them at the time and actually put it on a structure that could be scaled in a big way, and it had to have impact at a national level for our industry. So be on the lookout. It's still work in progress. I can't really share too much yet, right? But I will be as I'm building. I was actually too excited not to say anything, but I think you, and I would love for you to join the movement, because it's not gonna be me like pulling some magic out of the thin air. It's gonna need a lot. It's gonna need all of us to make this succeed, and more to come for sure. I appreciate you all. Have an amazing afternoon, and see you all in 2 weeks. A lot more to come. Thank you.